Hi guys, this is Taylor and I'm here today with my December wrap-up. It was a busy month, to say the least. As you can tell, my last video was my November wrap-up. But I did manage 6 books, thanks largely to the end of the semester, so let's just get into it. So after Nonfiction November, I really just wanted to read something easy, just give my brain a little break. So I brought out my old standby and I picked up the next 2 books in the Royal Diaries series. If you ever read the Dear America series as a kid, these are published in a really similar vein. These are fictionalized diaries of real-life historical princesses, and I love reading these whenever I need to shut off my brain and read about princesses. I've been working my way through this series since I was in my early teens, probably. Yikes. And the next one that I had to read was Elizabeth, the Princess Bride, Austria-Hungary, 1853. The main focus of this one is Elizabeth's family traveling so that her older sister can become engaged to the Emperor of Austria, but surprisingly he asks for her hand in marriage instead. So this diary basically chronicles the massive life changes that occur to her in a very short period of time. And that was actually my main gripe about this, was that it covers a very brief event in her life and the actual diary is very short. As you can see, it's not a long book to begin with, and about 50% of this is actually like historical notes and photos. However, I did find this subject matter entertaining and interesting, so I ended up giving this 3 stars out of 5. I think I just would have liked a little more material. The next book in the series was Weetamoo, Heart of the Pocketsets, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, 1653. I was really looking forward to this one because of the main character and the time period, but I was also kind of anxious, hoping that the author would deal with the situation and the conflicts in an appropriate and unbiased way. I was really hoping that they didn't sugarcoat the dynamics of the Native Americans attempting to coexist with the English. So I was really pleased to find out that the author of this entry actually has Algonquin roots and that she was chosen specifically for that reason. I think that this book was enjoyable. It was a lot slower to build than the other ones in this series, and it did take me a little longer to appreciate that slower character-driven build and to really appreciate what it was doing. It's also one of the saddest ones in the series, as you can imagine. The historical notes and the epilogue on this one were just devastating. But I was really satisfied with how this entry was handled. I'm really glad that this information is being made accessible to younger readers, and I did enjoy this. I gave it a 3-star rating, and I did end up liking it more than Elizabeth, the previous one. So then I picked up a new release because I was very excited about it. This is Finding the Edge, My Life on the Ice by Karen Chen. If you've been with me for a long time, or maybe you follow me on Instagram, you might know that I follow competitive figure skating religiously, and Karen Chen is a skater that I really like. She is the reigning US champion. She wrote this book after her breakout season, basically after winning the US championships and doing really well at the world championships, and I was intensely curious to see what types of stories she was going to tell here. She is very young, she's 17, so I was curious to find out what this book was even going to be like. And my overall impression of this book is that the writing was pretty bare bones. This book is marketed to younger readers, so I did keep that in mind. But even so, there were a lot of moments that really could have been built upon, but they're not. They just kind of happen. I would like to read a passage from the first time that she meets Christy Yamaguchi, who will become her mentor. When she walked in, I could barely speak. I just kept looking at her, thinking, OMGGGGGG. It's Christy Yamaguchi. But I'm not really here to criticize this too harshly because as a fan, I did enjoy it. It's kind of like, did she need to write an autobiography at 17? No. Am I personally glad that she did? Yeah, make that money. I gave this 3 stars, but I would not recommend this if you don't follow figure skating or you don't specifically like Karen Chen. It's not gonna engage you in the way that it would a fan, and it's not going to offer you a particularly stimulating look into figure skating either. So next I picked up 5 to 1 by Holly Bodger, and this is YA set in a city in India in the near dystopian future where there are 5 men for every 1 woman. And basically in this city, the procedure is that men are selected in a way that is supposed to be random but is often not random in order to compete for their chance to marry a designated woman. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that was actually one of the things that pleasantly surprised me. But overall, I felt that this book was okay. It is written in alternating perspectives, with the female main character's perspective written in verse. And I just felt like the verse added nothing to it. It was a little cringy at times, and I think I would have enjoyed the book more had that not been implemented. I also didn't super love the main character. There were points when she has some of that "I'm not like other girls" type of rhetoric, which just seemed really at odds with the rest of the book. But there were a lot of themes that I really liked. For example, the government has constructed this convoluted way of marrying off women and swears that everyone participating in this system has an equal chance to succeed, but of course it's heavily rigged, and I think that's a very important dynamic to explore right now. And there were lots of other timely feminist ideas that were brought up here that I really appreciated. So there were plenty of things that I liked, some things I disliked, and this ended up being another 3-star read for me. So at this point, I felt like I could no longer put off reading The Disaster Artist by Greg Sestero, and that was the correct choice because The Disaster Artist kind of blew my mind. So this is a very talked about book and film adaptation right now. This is an actor's tale of acting in objectively one of the worst movies ever made, called The Room. But the thing that got me was that it's actually so much more than that. First off, it's very cleverly and sometimes beautifully written, which I was not expecting at all. And the meat of it is that this does give you all of the horrible details about acting in and producing this movie, but it's also an incredibly compelling and moving story about friendship. So what I did not know was that Greg, the author, was friends with Tommy Wiseau, the producer and star of The Room, for years before they ever made the movie. And this book painted such an unfiltered and humanizing picture of Tommy as a person and as a friend. This book almost ended up being powerful to me, which I would not have guessed in a million years. So yeah, I can't really recommend this highly enough. If you like The Room, even if you enjoyed the film The Disaster Artist, I would consider going back and reading the book because it was kind of amazing. I ended up giving The Disaster Artist a 5-star rating. It is one of the best books that I read this year. So I should have stopped reading once I had a 5-star book. I really should have. Because I have such a knack for ending every year on a bad note. The last book I read in 2017 was Icelander by Dustin Long. This book is described as a Nabokovian goof on Agatha Christie, which is a blurb that speaks for itself. It had everything that was supposed to make me love it. That blurb, it's set in Iceland, the cover art is gorgeous, and I don't even get the satisfaction of saying that I hated this because my main thing was that I do not know what happened in this book. I do not know what this book was about. This is supposed to be a postmodern thing. It's roughly about a woman trying to solve a murder, but it's written as a spin-off of a fictional series that does not really exist, that has made its way as a manuscript to an editor who is also making notes in the margin. I don't even know how to explain this because I didn't understand it myself, and I gave up trying to understand it about halfway through. I did finish it, but my understanding did not increase at all. The whole book feels like that introductory period when you first start a book and you're trying to get situated but you really have no idea what's going on. The whole book felt like that. There are also like 15 central characters who all have these complex personal histories and backstories, and you're just supposed to follow that, I guess. And certain sections cycle through different perspectives rapidly. There's a point when a dead character has an active perspective. I might be making this sound weird in like a cool or interesting way, but it's not, because nothing was consistent, and the weirdness or the experimental nature is not given a solid foundation. It's just like everything is untethered and like going to different points of the universe at different rates and speeds, and I don't know what happened here. Basically what I'm saying is that I was massively disappointed in this. I gave it a 2-star rating because it tried, but this was the last thing I read in 2017. So, I want to let you guys know that I definitely have end of 2017, beginning of 2018 video plans. I just have to find the time to sit down and film, but all of that good stuff should be coming. Fingers crossed. So I hope that you ended your year with some good reads. Feel free to let me know what you read in December, and hopefully see you very soon. Bye!